I like it. Great to meet you, sir. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
You got it.
So
Thanks,
before we,
Joe.
you bet. So before we get into your good work, I want to know this. I always start out with 6 years ago, COVID took over everything and changed our lives. How did you
Hmm.
get through that era, and how has it influenced the way that you do things today?
Okay. That's
That's
that's my
that's
first.
question one. We're off and running.
Oh, okay. All right. So 6 years ago, COVID. So what's interesting about COVID is you learn from every situation, and great people, great leaders, great companies iterate, adjust quickly. And you see the people that in companies that figured out they had to change their model because of what was going on in the world. And that's typically what I did. I kept telling people that we need to change to iterate, but understand what can we keep that we're doing better because we're forced to do things. I will tell you one of the things that in my company I was striving for was to do certain things quicker. And COVID forced people to do things that they said, well, it's going to take us 3 years to do it. Okay, we did it in 2 months,
Yeah.
right? And it was that mentality that we put barriers and ti these ridiculous timelines when we know when everybody's pulling one rope in the same direction, you can get things done very quickly. So some of the things that I've done is try to instill that thinking in myself and how I run my business, how I think is don't put barriers on myself. Don't put these artificial long-term timelines when if I have dedicated thinking, dedicated um, time, I can get things done significantly faster and more efficient because that's what really COVID taught you from a business perspective. There's lots of other things, right? That it taught you that I always tell people this. Everyone thinks about restaurants failing, right?
Hmm.
What they forgot to tell you about the restaurants that did better during COVID,
Yeah.
right? And the restaurants that did better after COVID,
Yeah.
during COVID and after COVID. And that's kind of the things that I like to think about.
So let's get into the heart and soul of what you do with Glass Walls Leadership. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds. It's career
Sure.
day. The kid in the back of the room wants to know what you do for a living. How do you synthesize what you do and explain it to the kids?
To 12-year-olds and to anybody, what I do is I help leaders lead better.
Yeah.
I help leaders understand the value that their words bring. I want to tell you that I help leaders understand what their actions do. And if you think about life as a 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old, people are wrongly mistaken and said the greatest learnings are taught. The greatest learnings are caught, not taught. The
Yeah.
greatest learnings are of watching other people um, do something and then learning from that, right? So for me, as a leader, as a leadership consultant, I want to talk to people about not only their words but their actions, right? How do your actions match your words, and how does that shadow of this leader permeate down the entire organization?
So when you were 12, what did you want to be? What was your dream job?
I wanted to be a center fielder for the New York Mets.
So did you grow up liking the 86 Mets? Was that a good memory?
I can tell you one of the best stories of my entire life was the '86 Mets. So I was in college and I was with the five roommates, and then like 4 or 5 people were in the house too. It's like 10 people in the house. And if you remember the sixth game, there was the game they were
Oh,
down by, right? Right?
Billy
Okay.
Buckner, forget about it.
exactly. So we were at that house. We were just about to, go someplace, and it was the ninth inning. It was 2 outs, and I wouldn't let anybody leave. And I yelled at them. I said, "No, we're not leaving till this game's over." And we sat there and we watched the entire. I'll never forget it because it was just so dramatic.
It was
But it was
insane.
it was the event of everybody like, "Oh, okay, let's go. It's game's over." And like, I'm no, like we're staying. And so yeah, that's what I remember.
You knew it. Yeah. So I asked people if you could go to one game, where would you be? I wanted to be right there when that ball went underneath
Oh,
Billy Buckner's
oh,
legs. The euphoria. I mean, my dad was born in Brooklyn and raised on Long Island, so I had some affinity to it because of that. But I remember when Orozco threw that last pitch and he went down and pound. I think before his fist hit the mound, I was outside doing the same thing. I twirled, I threw a glove in the cold October air. It was just beautiful. What a great memory. Have you seen the 30 for 30? Um,
I have. I've seen the 30 for 30. And you listen, I look at everything through that lens of leadership. And I look at situations and things that happen and this belief, right? So for things to happen like this, like the 86 Mets, people have to have an irrational belief in their ability.
yeah,
You have to have an irrational belief that you're going to do things that nobody else does. So if you look at the 30 for 30 and the some will call it arrogance and some was arrogance in some of the players, but they just had this belief they were going to win every game.
yeah.
If you go back and they just believed,
Swagger.
right? It's yes, swagger is the big word now, but I just think this it's if you think about sports, and people know Kobe, people know Larry Bird. Somebody asked Larry Bird, why are you so comfortable taking and making the last shot of the game? And he said, because I've made that 3, 4, 5,000 times in my backyard.
Yeah.
So because he sees it in his head, he
Uh-huh.
believes it all the time, and so he believes that he's going to make the shot. So there's no way that that's not going to happen. And it's the same way with that Mets in that game is even though there was 2 outs, I'm this guy I was in I was here at school, Arizona State, and there's nothing. I just said let's just play this out. Hit Kevin Mitchell hit this hit, and I'm like. Mookie Wilson gets up,
Man.
goes, and listen, it's this irrational belief
Yep.
that great things are going to happen.
So I heard an interview with Larry Bird, and he was like, they were like, "What's your top five people?" And it started with Magic, and then when he got to Michael Jordan, and how he epitomized, obviously he was like Michael Jordan, he's the best. But he said the reason why I would have him on my team is he will take the shot that no one will. I mean, the minute
Yes.
the coach looks at him and says, "We're down to 1 second and we have to hit this," he's the only one that says, "Give it to me."
But it's what's funny about that. It's not only the coach, it's all the other four players.
Right,
They're
right.
like, I want him to take the shot.
That's it. He's the
Right?
guy.
Yeah,
He,
because it's not only that they have a rational belief in themselves. The other four players, the other 11, Brady in football, I mean, it's the same thing. It's this thing that's just you just believe that this person can do it. There's never a doubt. Like um so there's this great thing with Joe Joe Montana in the Super Bowl. I think it was against Cincinnati. And he's coming down to the last the last play, the last drive to win the game, and he goes, "Hey, did you guys see John Candy on the sidelines?" Like, and he talks about that, and it's that calm,
yeah.
it's that cool, it's that confidence, and it's that belief that they're going to do it, and the whole team just coalesce around that kind of leader, that kind of thinking.
What was it about your upbringing that gave you this idea of leadership and to lead your life in this way now? What were the early seeds that were planted that made you want to be this professional you are?
So it's one of those things that when you see things. And I want to be in front. I want to help influence and I want to help people, right? So if you think about different things that happen in middle school and here's what I'll say to you. There were a few people that transferred in when I was in middle school, when I was, just before high school. And I was the first person to say hi to them, introduce them. I was their first friend. And then I led other people to them. And then the group. And they'll say, you're the first person to talk. And that has happened over and over again, where I will step out and introduce people, get people together, and lead people towards, an action behavior. I'll also have people do things that I won't do. Like the stuff that some of my friends were doing in high school that I said, listen, I'm not going to do that too. That's also part of the leadership. And by the way, no one ever like tried to force me because I knew I was, and then in college, it was, I was the one when we were looking for a house every year or apartment. I was the one that I collected the money like for my friends. So it was these little things you see like throughout. And then when I came into the workforce, I just did things in a more systematic way, and I was able to do things better, get get win these contests, win these awards. I mean, do these things, and people would follow because I was able to teach. I was able to coach before I was in that position, of quote unquote leadership. I was leading by actions. I was leading by helping my colleagues. And so when I got the role, it was no surprise, right? I didn't change like much of anything
Yeah.
in how I thought. Some of the behaviors have to change because you don't have but the how I thought never changed. Because my goal was to help people be better, help people grow. That has never changed.
So who's been your inspirational force in your life, your hero?
So it's what's interesting is I'm going to answer it probably differently than you think. So I think about I tell people this all the time. I watch and I learn and I see. Like the best person I've ever seen interview or ask questions was Ted Koppel of Nightline. In fact, this
Yeah.
is anybody watching this that's under 40 has no idea who that
Right.
is. They don't know why that is. But if you go back and listen to Ted Koppel's how he interviewed, it's spectacular.
Agree.
So my questions think I would think like Ted Koppel. So Muhammad Ali, how he engaged people. I think about so I would pick these little
Yeah.
people I would watch, and I wouldn't emulate at all. I would just say I would tweak, right? And when in a company, I would watch what people do, what people say, how they say it, and then I would try to say, I would do differently. This is how I would do it. So that's what I did. I don't have I don't, and I do it right now with in my life right now, right? Every day I listen to between 3 to 7 different podcasts about everything, every topic. And I listen to what they say, how they say it, the words they use. And if I love it, because if sometimes these things, these words, they match, and you're like, wow, that's a great word.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that. I love how that sounds. So that's the I've been this compilation of people. There's not one person. And I'll tell you, one of the greatest lessons I learned about leadership was how not to lead.
Uh-huh.
I had a I worked at this company, and I won't mention the company, that great company. But my boss he would get mad and his veins would come out of his neck, yelling and screaming. And And the first day, I swear to you, that people don't believe this. The first day I was on the job, I told him he couldn't talk to me like that. He couldn't yell at me. I, I said, here's what we're gonna do. If you want to get as much out of me, just we'll talk. If I disagree, I'll tell you I disagree, but I'll still do it your way. And then after we can say if you were right or if maybe you should have done it differently. And I said, but if you yell, I will not listen
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
And so he never yelled at me at all, ever, right?
That's great.
He yelled at everybody else. Then somebody like 3 years later said to me, how come he never yells at you? And I said to him, I won't let him.
Right. Yeah. That's
But
wonderful.
yeah, yeah.
So when that alarm clock goes off in the morning, what gets you up? What gets you to do this at a high level, change lives, take care of your soul? What is that energy for you?
I seeing the joy and people, most of the time, people don't realize how great they are, right? They don't understand their genius, their gift, their talents. They don't. If I can speak with them and I'm able to tell them, do you understand the impact that you're having on the people around you? Do you understand what your words do and 95% of the times they go, no, I don't. And if I can do that, when I do that, and I see the impact that makes on people and the joy it creates, not in that person, but in the people around them, the collective around them, that's the stuff that makes me happy. And if I can play a 0.1% role in somebody's happiness, somebody's wealth, somebody's joy. That's what gets me up.
So if you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, and you had a big book in your hands, like a coffee
Say that one
table.
more time.
If you had a dream tonight and you ran into the 18-year-old version of you, and you had a big coffee table book in your hand, you handed it over and said, "This is the life you've lived so far." Would that young version of you believe this is the life you've had so far?
Yes.
Okay.
That young version would believe that because that young version n never put barriers or limits on themselves. Never. There was not. I don't think I didn't think in those terms. I will say there's certain things I told you I wanted to be a center fielder for the Mets and I did and I played football in high school. I led the state in receptions as a tight end. What I will say is I didn't give 100% of my effort to being great at those things. And what's the one area I regret is, because, there's a terminology. If the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? So it wasn't true for me. There's certain things that I did it great. And there's certain things I didn't believe, I didn't think that there's some possibility for growth in those areas. So I didn't put 100% in. So that's the only areas I think I would have changed growing up as an 18-year-old.
So when you see that big word retirement flash in front of your eyes, what do you think?
I don't think about it at all because that is a so retirement is a word that I think athletes do because they have to.
Yeah.
I don't think people need to do that or think like that. Your life changes. There's different chapters, right, of your life. I refuse to stop growing, to stop helping people. So that I will never, and I'll quote, and my wife tells me never to say never. I will never retire, right?
Okay.
I might do something different. I might space something out, but the act of growing human beings,
Yeah.
helping people be better. I'll say this, Joe. One of my biggest joys is when I get a phone call from somebody, and they say, "Hey, how do I do this? How can I get this?" And I'll spend 30 minutes on a phone call with them. I can do that when I'm 95,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I don't, retirement is a word they'll never come into my lexicon, and they'll never be permeate as part of who I am as a being.
So of everything that you've done, accomplished, evolved to, and become, what are you the proudest of?
I think the thing that I'm proud of is the impact I've made on people's lives, right? You know, I have 4 kids, married. I led a team of 600 and something people reporting to me. And I think what they tell themselves about me, what they say to me about the impact, that's what matters, right? Right. I think we're put on this earth to help people. I've been saying that for years. I think the only reason we're on this earth is to help people be better. And if I can play a little role in that, that's all that matters to me.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. There's different circles of people in your life, family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Who do I think? I think I'm somebody that cares about people. I think I'm somebody that really tries to bring joy to people in many different ways. And sometimes it's just by laughter, right? Sometimes it's just by being there for people, right? If people are going through some difficult times, we just had a friend of mine, his mother passed away yesterday. So it's being there for that person. So it's, that's how I see myself, as being somebody that's there. I think one of the famous lines that people know me for, because I've been saying this for years, and you hear it in sports, and this is probably the number one thing I think about myself, is your best ability is your availability,
Yeah.
right? And I want to be available for people when they need it. And that's how I see myself.
So if anybody wants to get involved with Glass Wall's leadership, tap into your sage wisdom, any of the good business, where's the best place to go?
So you can contact me on LinkedIn. Um, Rutherford Pascal. Trust me, I'm the only one. I'm one of one. Um, I'm also, I have a YouTube channel, Glasswell's Leadership, and website, glasswellsleadership.com. It's easy. I,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm like Kurt Signetti. Google me.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. I'll put all these links in the show notes. Rutherford, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful new year, man. I appreciate it.
You too, man. Take care.
You bet.